I'm Cristina Salbuda, CEO of Philo for Thought, and you are all at the FinTech and Global Impact Forum. I want to start from a place of gratitude, as I usually do, which is to start by thanking Philip Grandison, our venue host, and my wonderful co-host, Spencer Rones. I also want to thank a couple of other people. First of all, our returning speakers who are also former keynote honorees of Philo for Thought, John Pirovolakis and Dimitri Papacosta. We also want to thank our returning guest speakers from the spring, Dr. Luca Iandoli and Dr. Yorgo Tsarandelis. And we want to welcome our two very brave Georges who are first-time speakers, George Georgiades and George Panayotakopoulos. So, without further ado, we're going to start with our first panel. So, starting with Dr. Pirovolakis and Dr. Tsarandelis and Mr. Georgiades. Okay, so the first question to start off is how do each of you define the scope of AI in FinTech across the three key pillars, which are innovation, accessibility, and security?
I think like not even I think, I've seen it in my domain as well, but in all domains, we see that it's revolutionizing. It's changing the way we're doing business. It's changing the manpower that we need there. So within innovation, we're like, for example, in the FinTech domain, I'll take, for example, I've worked with crypto companies as a compliance officer. In that domain, it's changing. First of all, offensively, how the type of attacks we're seeing, defensively, how we're addressing those attacks. So in the compliance realm, for example, in the crypto FinTech, the volume of transactions that are exceptional or have some sort of anomaly or some sort of AML activity around them has exploded because it's just so much more transactions that we need to see. So how do you respond to that? How do you respond to that volume? Well, we need technologies like artificial intelligence to help us respond to that. It's kind of just in general. I was thinking about, look, what is AI to people in general? It's going to be an amazing revolution. Just like we had the Industrial Revolution with electricity, with steam engines, with robotics, with information. This now is going to be able to allow us to take all this explosion of information and understand it better. That's the key takeaway I take within all domains. It's going to give us a better understanding of what type of information we have before us.
Well, I'd say, just breaking the question down a little bit, artificial intelligence is basically the use of computing to mimic human intelligence, human thought. Going back quite some time through the formalization of logic as a subject matter. FinTech is the application of technology to finance, to financial activity. And I think the root of Christina's question is really how do you put those two together? I'll reframe a little, if I'm framing this, because I know this got the George and Yorgos off to the races when we talked about it last time. But if you think about artificial intelligence, maybe my colleagues can separate different kinds of artificial intelligence. What can you do in FinTech with artificial intelligence? And you're seeing tons of money being thrown into it right now. My personal interest is primarily in how artificial intelligence can be used to hack financial institutions, which I think is a colossal threat. People are very excited about the things that AI can do to help people figure out trading strategies or robo strategies or being smarter at trading, certainly good at aggregating data and using that to inform your trading strategies. I think an area that probably is going to be the bigger story when all is told in the end is how AI was used to destroy enormous amounts of wealth for people that have been very cutting corners around cybersecurity for a long time.
I'll take a different approach, a little bit from the side of like the actual user of AI. And again, cybersecurity is a big issue. We all hear about deepfakes, cloned voices, synthetic users and everything. But the flip side of that is actually democratizing access to some of that technology too for a lot of people. In the digital space, but also on your own computer, online, you can do a lot of research. You can do a lot of, there's so many applications now that make it easy for you don't have to have a finance degree or like economics degree to actually invest a little bit of money or look at what's going on. As long as you're secure, right? Like as long as it's you and not somebody's using your data. So for me, that's one of the innovation and the accessibility that you mentioned, Christina, is a big one. The flip side of that, of course, is security and maybe the destruction of everything if AI takes over. But that's a positive thing that I like. And in terms of like financial education, like a lot of these AI chatbots or LLMs that I can actually, I learned a lot myself, even though I've been working in this field for a few years. You always have questions. They always get, like, now getting advice though from AI, that's another thing. It's like, how much can you trust what the advice is, and aggregating data is great, but what kinds of data, right? So you have to like make sure that always take it with a grain of salt on how to use those algorithms. So, but it is a great tool, and it's only going to get better until we're not necessary anymore, and then.
Welcome to the dark side.
I know that was a joke, but I'll throw this out and see what my colleagues think about this. But I do think when people talk about generalized intelligence, AGI, I would say very emphatically that's ridiculous. Computers are extraordinarily stupid. AI is extraordinarily stupid. AI is basically glorified. To quote Noam Chomsky, AI is basically glorified autofill. Like when you're starting a word and it finishes for you. That's what AI is. It's not intelligence. It creates the appearance of intelligence. There's some things it does better than humans. Obviously, AI can consume massive amounts of data, much more than a human can, and synthesize it quickly. But that's not intelligence. That's not intelligence. So the idea of, I would also say when you have companies out there talking about job loss because of AI, you should also determine whether those companies are out trying to raise money for their company and try to impress their investors with grandiose statements that scientifically are ridiculous.
So AGI, artificial general intelligence, what that means, just to define what that means, it means that right now they basically train. When you train the foundation models right now, you're basically training on, say, 8 experts, a finance expert, math expert, whatever the case may be, right? Because there's just limitations, right? So AGI theoretically is a computing problem. But let's take it back to what you said about jobs, right? At the end of the day, intelligence, without taking the philosophical question, what intelligence is basically you have a job. And you ask someone to do you take these inputs and you do these outputs. I need this shelf stocked. I need the inventory counted. I need this legal document reviewed. And the point is, and I think everyone can kind of see it, that even now where we are with the versions of AI we have now, you can take that and you take that problem and give it to the system. Not every problem today, right? That's so it's not general, but you could take a very specific use cases and solve those problems. That's the job. And the other irony I'll say, and we were at another talk at a law firm, and they kind of chuckled at it. But the irony is the AI is not coming for the blue collar jobs like the robotic automation did back in the in the 60s and 70s in the factories, right? That was coming for the blue collar jobs. But the AI of today is coming for the white collar jobs. Meaning what? It's looking and doing a great job at looking at the x-rays and looking at the radiological scans. It's doing a great job of looking at the legal document. And I'm not saying it's going to have the best today, right? Today, it's going to have that super legal strategy that you're paying that $2,000 an hour lawyer for. But it's certain lawyers are using it to do the contract review and give recommendations. And I'll finish with this. It's like, especially like for the work I do in AI, the practical work. I don't want it to be creative. I don't want it to write a letter in the style of Hemingway. I want it to look at a document and tell me what people are here, what are they doing? Is there someone trying to steal intellectual property here, for example, right? And it does a damn good job at that, right? And that is a white collar job today, And look, in any industrial revolution, there's always, like the Luddites of the Industrial Revolution of past, they said, we're against technology. There's always going to be that, and there's always going to be that disruption. So yeah, I kind of went around the way, but yeah, what I'm trying to say is instead of trying to say are they intelligent or not, I'd rather ask the more simplistic question: is it able to do the job, the intelligent, quote unquote intelligent, whatever that intelligence is, that we couldn't do, that we had to hire a person before? And I would emphatically say yes, to that, and that, yeah, discrete use cases, and actually, the use case you have is a customer support person being replaced.
Right. So you just mentioned blue collar jobs. There's millions and millions of jobs now in call centers, customer centers, banks, branches, bank advisors, finance advisors. All these jobs are in peril, right? Because maybe they're not completely automated. That you walk into a bank and there's a robot to greet you, but increasingly, especially in the call centers, the customer service, all these digital apps, these AI agents are getting there. Not AGI, not
Right.
like specific use case. Like say, you want to move money around, you want to open an account, close an account, buy a stock or whatever. You don't have to talk to a banker anymore. Think of the ATMs. Back in the day, we had to go into the bank to get money. For decades now, we'll go to the ATM, right? But there's still people in the bank. Not everybody's gone. So that's what I'm saying. So there's still bank tellers that will give you money. You can still go and get cash from a person. So maybe not everybody will be replaced, even in this customer service
You're
sectors.
programming that, right?
But yeah, maybe not all of them. That could be more high skilled. Like you can have your digital finance advisor on your pocket, on your phone, but maybe when we're talking about large transactions or whatever, you walk into a branch, you walk into your private banker or advisor, and you talk it out. But a lot of the low-level stuff can be automated away.
So then that brings us to the second question about daily use of AI, which you already have answered. So I'm going to go on to the third question, okay, which is about strategic integration and what strategies have proven most effective for integrating AI and automation into core financial operations to drive productivity gains and cost reductions. So we're going to start with Yorgo this time.
Can I hone the question for Yorgo? So Yorgo, do you believe that you could not hire junior programmers because AI can write the code for you?
Good question. Not yet. I mean, we're not there yet. I think even a junior programmer has some capabilities that these algorithms, sometimes they just fall into traps or, but in combination of a junior programmer with like a Gen AI, a copilot, like the copilot, sometimes it drives me crazy when I use it, and I'm not even a programmer, I'm a designer, and it drives me crazy because a lot of the suggestions, I'm like, come on, this is like, to your point, it's not intelligence. It's like, okay, it looks at the data, it thinks that should be the next thing I should do, and as a person, as a human being that have more of a holistic view of like my workload or what I'm supposed to do, I'd say it's 50%. It's a hit or miss. Sometimes it's useful. Most of the time, that those misses come up and they say, this is actually wasting my time. But there are some really manual, like trivial, labor-intensive tasks, talking about automation, that, it can summarize a long, report and give me some, pointers about something that maybe, if I'm really serious about it, I'm going to read it. I'm not going to rely on the summarization. But if it's just like, I just want to get an idea of what, this team is working or, how this group is, operating, that is a very useful thing. And, it is replacing maybe some of those like administrative jobs or something that,
Use case scenario on that. Just shareholder dispute. This is an electronic discovery case.
Yeah.
Let's do with FinTech, but it's a financial dispute between shareholders, right? And a global case outside the U.S. But essentially, we had millions of documents that were potentially relevant that we had to go through. And of those million, we used traditional AI methods from 20 years ago. We've been doing AI for a long time. It's just this new revolution everyone's talking about now. To whittle that down to a little less than 1 million. On average, it costs us about $1 to $4 per document to get human eyeballs on it. Right. And when I say low level, we're talking about attorneys, bar admitted attorneys. Right. Instead, but offshore we can get a good price. Okay. But even U.S. admitted bar attorneys cost about $4 a document to get eyeballs on it. Okay. Yeah. So, but On that case, instead of spending $4 a document, or even $1, let's say at the low end, which would have cost $1 million, it was a little less than a million documents. We ended up spending 25 cents a document to go through and do that first level review. So that it's exactly the use case that we're talking about. Okay, what is the practical use case, and would it replace? And I'll tell you something else on the programming side. If you find a programmer today or I don't know if there's any programmers here that are not using Copilot, I'd love to meet them. And I'll tell you, and I met them. They were working in my team too, and I said absolutely not. I want you to use Copilot because I know you're going to be more efficient and better at your job at the end of the day. They use AI in their programming. It just helps in the debugging. It helps in the code writing. You're not going to develop that enterprise application outright, even though I've gotten some feedback from some very extremely senior developers that are saying, "Wow," But yeah.
But talking about democratizing again, everybody can do vibe coding now. Have you heard that term? What vibe coding is? You don't have to be a programmer. You can just work with ChatGPT and come up with a bit of code that actually works to a level. Up to a level, though, right? So.
Well, that's the potential. That's probably what coding will become.
Yeah.
Coding will probably become where you tell what your problem is, you tell what the answer is,
right.
and it's so close. There's no question.
But like you said, AI has been around for a while. There's a lot of tools that we have. Even just going back to PowerPoint. PowerPoint, like Microsoft PowerPoint had machine learning stuff in it that it can actually help you put together a slide. Now I can actually describe to Copilot, Microsoft, create a slide for me with X, Y, and Z and whatever, and it creates the slide. 9 times out of 10, I look at the slide and I'm like, this is crap.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, But maybe that'll get better. Maybe it will get to the point that I can actually, but there's a new level of control now. You can with natural language, you can describe what you want to do. Right. Either whether it's financial data, visual, graphical, whatever. Like you said, you can write a novel now and you can describe, and ChatGPT will write for you. But is it going to be good? Every time I look at these AI images that, these tools generate, Claude, I hate them. They all look like brownish, glowish, puppet looking, whatever. But it's actually good because you can create one. I created sometimes, 4 slides that I need. Okay, this is exactly what I want. But they all look the same. And not even, let's get to the point of intellectual property and what data they're using to create all these things. So that's another whole other topic. So yeah.
I have one question. This is more of a on a macro basis. Thinking about, because it seems that cost reduction is here that a major is the reduction in labor costs. In a country like Japan, for example, where the population is already aging, there are fewer students and employees in the job market in general, AI seems to be perhaps more of something, and automation seems to be something that's actually plugging a gap in the workforce. In a country like the US or countries in Southeast Asia or in South America where the population is still, population growth is still continuing, there are still new students, there are still plenty of employees in the general workforce, some who may not be able to find work. Where do you see the transition happening? And perhaps maybe not a specific date, but how do you see, for example, the recalibration of the education system and of training systems in large banks or in technology corporations to better accommodate students who may be, say, transitioning in this transitional period now or coming after this transitional period where AI is able to shear away a lot of the low-level jobs as one.
No, that's a very good question.
I would say, I'll start with this. I'd say this is subjective. In my opinion, in the U.S., companies, organizations are all about efficiency and getting things done fast and efficiently and cheaply, but still good. Yeah, you go into China, for example, you see less of that because they have so many hands, so much manpower. So they're not too concerned about efficiency. It's what folks have even told me. So it's a little bit subjective. Take it with a grain of salt, right? I believe you. But yeah, but this is what you're talking about. For me, this is a very exciting time because it's a new industrial revolution right now that's happening. So there's a lot of opportunities for people. So if you. And people, when I say this, they get mad. It's what about the jobs? The truck drivers are going to lose their jobs. Well, the guys who were making buggies lost their jobs, right? The guys who were making the whips that were whipping the horses lost their jobs, when the car came out. It's the reality, but new jobs are created alongside that. But the reason it's an amazing time right now is because you could do so many amazing things where before you needed to have a large organization with a huge development company, like we've kind of established here. You can take a great idea and execute much faster and much more efficiently than you could before. And that's so I see it as an amazing time to be alive, frankly. And just you just got to find the opportunity. Don't wait for someone to give it to you at the end of the day. But yeah, so. Yeah, that's how. Yeah, because the way I understood your question, unless I misread it, was this new technology that's coming to disrupt the workforce and take jobs away. And I disagree. You're saying it's taking low-level jobs away. I think it's taking high-level, quote unquote, intellectual jobs away.
Well, I mean, what you pointed out that this is coming for white-collar jobs. Yeah. What us, like, for example, legal associates are doing, and paralegals are doing on a regular basis, or even eventually perhaps analysts in the investment bank making models. That could all be clipped. And I guess, but you're correct. I think my question is sort of the same question could be asked about, say, how renewable energy affects the oil and gas industry.
Right.
How if a country makes a transition towards solar or wind, how do those drillers?
How does that affect Exxon?
Right. How does it affect Exxon? How do big?
I'm sure they're not worried.
Right.
I'm going to make the question less general. I mean, or you could take it back to whether computers allegedly at one point in the 70s and 80s they thought everyone was going to not have a job. So, first of all, I'm going to push back hard. There is yet to be mass layoffs due to AI. That's the fact. There's a lot of BS about how everyone's going to get fired. Let's see whether that happens. I want to emphasize how dumb AI is. AI does not write algorithms. AI can't do math. AI can't do science. Those are things that require thought. What can AI do? They can take massive amounts of data and do relatively simple things at scale that humans can't. So in a tightly defined context, for example, a legal context where they can intake, terabytes of data and legal documents and so forth, every possible variation on how you set up a licensing agreement or whatever, it can figure out when you give it a word what the most likely next word is. It's good at that. And if you define the context tightly enough, that will create the perception that it's done something intelligent. The second thing I would say on this is that I don't agree that there have been massive advances in artificial intelligence, even from 10, 20 years ago. The big difference, what makes ChatGPT so much better than its predecessors is that the AI got so good? No, it's that ChatGPT consumes massive amounts of data that shouldn't even be legal. There are people, they should not be allowed to go past the paywalls, take proprietary copyrighted content, kill the developer that they've told to write the code to get this stuff behind the paywalls. And then as dumb as the AI is, you give it that much data, you give it all of the internet, it's going to sound smart. So, just to keep it, I'm not saying AI is useless, and there are tightly defined tasks, as my colleagues have pointed out, that it can perform. But if you're in India and why is it not taking off in India? I mean, they want to give people jobs. They want people, so the AI chopping that off is not going to have as much impact there as here. But the jury is out as to whether it's going to have the kind of employment impact on the economy. Economically speaking, it's really bad right now. Way too much of the stock market is concentrated in AI stocks that have very little concrete evidence of doing anything important. This will be worse than the dot-com bubble. This will be worse than the dot-com bubble. We're still feeling the effects of the dot-com bubble. In this case, what is the actual scientific progress that has made AI so prominent now? That is a very fair question to ask. And I don't think ChatGPT is that impressive as a technology. And if you don't believe that, look at what the Chinese did. What was the one the Chinese put? Which one? DeepSeek, yeah. For pennies on the dollar that they did was comparable to ChatGPT.
I think every young student, every young person now should be using AI all the time, whether you like it or not, for employment opportunities.
For professors, there.
You would just stick AI in front of everything now. When I was a student in the 90s, it was the dot-com, like you said. If you didn't have a website at some point in the late 90s, it's like, where are you? Are you hiding under a rock? So I remember creating my first website because I had to. And now you have to work with AI. So don't be a Luddite, like you said, and ignore it. It's just for professional, future. purposes.
Okay, so we're at time, and what I'm going to ask is to sum up what each of you, in like a sentence, would say the future of AI is.
To pick up the task of some extremely menial tasks that maybe some people get employment from, and to blow up the stock market in the short term.
I agree. It would blow up the stock market for sure. There'll be a bubble, But no, it's not a fad. It's here to stay. It's very powerful. It's going to change every domain, every industry. Yeah, guaranteed. I already see it happening. Yeah.
For me, I'm going to go a little crazy. So I'm a linguist by training. So one of the big innovations that was not like AI back in the day is like the ability to actually use your own language to talk to computers, right? You can, you don't need to like know programming. You can just like interact with the computer pretty much with everything that is technology, using English, using any language actually. They're amazing. So that will revolutionize the way we use technology. When you can actually talk to your car, talk to your refrigerator, talk to everything. One caveat for that is keeping the humans in the loop, and maybe that's something will come up, but I want to talk about algorithms that determine whether you are, first of all, getting a job, going through the AI, your credit score, whether you're going to get a loan or not. This is a big one. So that's where I would sum up that this is the beauty and the danger of AI, like how we can control it.
Thank you guys for taking the time today.